The line at the small-town coffee shop stretched to the door that morning. A storm was rolling in, the air smelled like rain and espresso, and the new cashier, Emma, was on her third day at work. Her fingers trembled slightly as she fumbled with the change, trying to keep up with the impatient morning rush. That's when he walked in. Daniel Ward, the billionaire CEO of Ward Enterprises. He wasn't supposed to be there. He usually sent his assistant for his coffee, never showed up in person. But today, something in him wanted to step away from the boardroom chaos. Maybe it was the stress of the $200 million deal he was about to close later that morning. Maybe it was the silence of success that had begun to feel heavier than the noise of struggle. He ordered a simple black coffee. No smile, no eye contact. Just the weight of a man carrying too many zeros in his bank account, and not enough warmth in his heart. Emma rang up the order, then noticed something odd. Daniel had pulled out a sleek black card, but tapped it before the screen even prompted. The payment didn't go through. She bit her lip and said softly, Sir." That's the line fell quiet. Everyone looked up. Daniel blinked, confused. "Excuse me." She smiled nervously. "You tapped too early. You have to wait for the beep first, then tap. Otherwise, it won't work." A pause. Then laughter. Not mocking, but genuine, real laughter from the people in line. Daniel couldn't help but smirk. It had been years since someone corrected him, so simply, so unafraid. He followed her instruction, tapped again, and the transaction went through. "Guess I still have things to learn," he said, shaking his head. Emma chuckled. "We all do, sir. Even coffee machines can teach you patience." Her words struck him harder than he expected. For the first time that week, maybe that year, someone had spoken to him like he was human, not a headline. When she handed him his coffee, Daniel noticed her fingers were red from scrubbing cups. The small trainee badge pinned crookedly to her shirt, and the cheap sneakers that had seen better days. He asked her name. She hesitated, unsure why a millionaire would care, but answered anyway. "Emma, just Emma." He nodded, smiled politely, and left. But her words, "We all do, sir. Even coffee machines can teach you patience," echoed in his mind the whole drive back to his office. Hours later, the boardroom was filled with tension. A $200 million merger deal sat on the table. His team was ready. The other company's executives were waiting for his final approval. But something felt wrong. He looked around at the polished suits, the cold smiles, the endless talk of profits and projections. And then he thought about Emma, the nervous cashier who dared to correct him, the way she laughed through the chaos, the way she worked for pennies yet smiled like she had everything. He looked at the contract again. It was lucrative, yes, but it would also result in shutting down dozens of small-town branches, including the coffee shop chain where Emma worked. Hundreds of jobs gone. Daniel's pen hovered over the dotted line. Then, slowly, he set it down. "What are you doing?" his CFO whispered. Daniel took a deep breath, changing the deal. He adjusted the terms, adding a new clause, one that protected the small stores, ensured fair wages, and reinvested profits into local communities. The lawyers looked horrified. The room buzzed with disbelief. "This change will cost us millions," someone said. Daniel smiled faintly. "Then we'll earn it back the right way." Later that evening, as the rain began to fall outside, Daniel returned to the same coffee shop. The crowd was gone, the air smelled of cinnamon and steam, and Emma was wiping down tables. He ordered the same coffee. She didn't recognize him right away, until he said, "Wait for the beep first, right?" She laughed. "You remembered." He handed her a small envelope. "For teaching me the right trick." Inside was a note. "Your kindness changed more than a coffee order today," and a check made out in her name for 25 Zalhosen. With a note that said, "Employee Fund," she froze. "Sir, I can't take this." He smiled gently. "You already did. Consider it a small thank you for reminding a millionaire how to be human." Emma's eyes filled with tears. She'd never imagined that a small act, a correction said with kindness, could ripple all the way into a boardroom worth $200 million. Daniel walked out into the rain that night, feeling lighter than he had in years. And behind him, the sign on the coffee shop door glowed softly in the dark. "Kindness served here." The rain poured softly over the small cafe window, tracing slow, shimmering lines against the glass. Emma stood behind the counter, holding that envelope like it was made of glass. Her heart raced. The name on that check, Daniel Ward. She knew it now. The same man whose company logo appeared on the news, on billboards, on charity galas she could never afford to attend. She slowly sat down on the stool near the espresso machine. The soft hum of the heater filled the silence. How can someone like him care about someone like me? She whispered to herself. Just then her manager walked out from the back room, wiping his hands. Emma, everything okay? She quickly slipped the envelope into her apron. Why? Yeah, just a weird day. He smiled kindly. You're doing great, kid. You've brought more smiles to this place in a week than we've had in months. She forced a small smile, but her mind was far away. Back to that moment when she'd corrected him, when the world had frozen, and she'd simply said, "That's the wrong trick." Those words, so small, had somehow reached into the heart of a man who lived among skyscrapers. Meanwhile, across town, Daniel sat in his car at a red light. The rain blurred the city lights into soft halos. For years, he'd chased numbers, sales targets, quarterly profits, shareholder satisfaction. But that day, he realized how hollow it all felt. He thought about his father, how he'd grown up in a small neighborhood cafe just like that one. His dad used to tell him, "Success isn't what you earn, son, it's what you return."